In 2020, I created the video title "Is Jaroid Henry a Scam?"
For me to tell you about me not being a scam, but that's actually what this video is not about.
And the video did extremely well. It was me sharing my entire journey, which led to that point. And at the time, a lot of artists were skeptical because no one knew who Jaroid Henry was. No one was familiar with what I was teaching. It was this new kid basically on the block teaching artists how to sell artwork. Fast forward 4 years later, 1,000 students later, students crossing high six figures, millions in art sales. It's safe to say that video aged really well. But the reason I'm here today recording another Jaroid Henry scam video is because a lot have changed since 2020 till current. And if you watch this video, you probably a visual artist that's considering joining the Artist Rise training. And I don't think it's a question of if it's a scam or not, but I do think that's a very important question you should be asking. And that question is the Artist Rise training the right training for you? So in this video, I'm going to give you the backstory from how I started to current. And I'm going to also share literally the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I will tell you, mid 2024 definitely got ugly. So with that being said, we're going to jump straight into it. Now, jumping into it, I must give a quick background. So I went to the Kansas City Art Institute in Kansas City, Missouri, where it was absolutely phenomenal. But I knew I wanted to help artists sell artwork. So I left the Art Institute with the focus of teaching artists how to sell art. This was before courses and trainings and consultants was ever sexy.
Roy Henry, and I help visual artists make consistent art sales using social media.
So my entire philosophy was, if I could learn how to sell art from non-artists, that means study business people who is extremely successful when it comes to marketing and sales, and take what I learned and apply it to the art space, I figure artists will succeed. And that's what I focused on. So by 2019, I started working with my first initial students. These students started selling, and it was making anywhere from about $2,000 per month to some of the best months end up crossing $7,000 months. Things were going great. I was working about 15 students at the time. We was doing like little interviews, sharing their results, and everyone was just loving it. Things was like really coming to fruition. And at this point, I was living a dream. Coming into 2021, by this time, things start to really scale. At this time, I'm having students like hitting bigger numbers. You having students hitting $10,000 months, selling their artwork independently using the strategies that I'm teaching. Yes, like you talking about this 20-year-old kid or so at the time, 21, teaching visual artists how to sell artwork, and they're selling pretty regularly. So it felt phenomenal. But at this point, I did want to take things a bit further. So then we ended up creating the Artist Rise 2.0 training. Now, the Artist Rise 2.0 training was a new training, up to date, all the videos and everything that's included. And what I decided to do is give all my current students access to this new training at no additional cost. So at this time, they have an entire new training, and still to this day, which I was doing then, was hosting weekly Q&A calls twice a week. So every single week, twice a week, on Mondays and Thursdays, I show up with my students and answer all their questions myself while they apply the training. At this point, due to the updated training, things started to become a little bit more advanced. Now, when I first started out, pricing was about $1,500. At this point, pricing is about $2,800 or so. But as we begin to add to the training, and we brought in mentors into the training and new information, students started hitting higher numbers. So the investment of the training ended up getting to a point of $3,800 or $4,800, depending on the incentive. But we had students at this time crossing $20,000 months, $40,000 months, $60,000 months. My most successful student, who actually sent me this big art piece behind me, ended up in 2023 having a $700,000 year selling their artwork, which is absolutely phenomenal. Now, to be quite frank, I felt like I was on top of the world. You're talking about by the end of 2023 going into 2024, I'm working with roughly about 1,000 visual artists. We have extremely tight community. Everyone is really close. I mean, I even had students that went on vacations together. I had students that end up becoming best friends, and now still friends to this day. And I had students all willing to help each other succeed while following the overall Artist Rise training. So it genuinely felt like I was just on top of the world. At this point, I'm fully isolated, which I'm still in to this day. I end up moving completely away from all family, friends, and associates to put all my focus and energy to helping my students succeed. This led to a lot of recognition. This led to me growing a huge following online. And it's all from just really hard work. I never was the fancy guy. You never see me like dress fancy. You never see me go out, party, speak on stages. I just decided to hyper focus on learning as much as possible and teaching it to the students I work with. And things were going great. Then 2024 came. What happened in 2024? So by mid 2024, I decided it's time for an entire new training. It's time for something new, something fresh. And at this point, I wanted to introduce the new training, which is the Artist Rise flagship training. And what things took a turn is that when I introduced the training, I decided this training would come at a new investment. So anyone that paid a new investment for current students will get access to the new training. Anyone that do not pay the new investment for current students will not get access to the new training. And this is where things took a huge turn. My artists became absolutely furious. And the main reason they became furious because all my students felt they was investing into lifetime access. And now, as the owner, I understood lifetime access was the lifetime of that product. But morally, my students felt like it just wasn't fair. People felt that they invested into me. And honestly, they were right. The students I was working with was following my YouTube channel probably for years before working with me. And the students that were inside my training was with me every single week, twice a week on Q&A calls, asking me questions. So to hear that I'm finally going into a new direction and building a new training, and if they wanted to join, they had to pay a new investment, it didn't sit well. So this led to my students started sharing their opinions and how they felt like they was being betrayed, and they felt like I was going away, and they felt like I didn't care, and they felt like they was actually getting scammed because there were students who joined the training just 2 months before this change was happening. So what I decided to do is get on a Q&A call with all my current students and explain exactly why we have to change the training, why it's time for something new, why there's a new investment involved, and why this is all important for the longevity of the entire business, so I could keep serving not just my current students, but allowing new students to join. Because at this time, I was working with too many students and wasn't able to bring on new students. So after that call, my students were still upset. You had students backing outside the trainings, joining side groups, and sharing their opinions on how they felt like everything was just completely unfair at this point. I was losing relationships with students that I've been working with for literally 4 years. And honestly, I felt like something had to change, especially because students even felt like their voices was being suppressed and they couldn't share their honest opinion. So I decided to get on a Zoom call with every single student that was upset in a group setting. On this call, there was roughly about 100 students, and I let the students one by one share exactly why they were upset. Students talked about how they felt it was unfair that some students paid $1,500 to join the training back in 2019, and in 2024, some students paid $4,800. And the reason there was discrepancy in the price is because in 2019, it was a bare bones training, so the investment was less. By 2024, where students crossing $20,000, $30,000, and $40,000 months selling the artwork online due to the mentors and all the advancement in the training, so the investment was much, much more. My current students were also upset that I created the new training and that this new training would come at a new investment, mainly because they felt that they invested into what's called lifetime access. I had students feeling furious because they felt like they never had a chance to really voice their opinions on the situation up until this point of the live Zoom call. And this is just some of the reasons why the students were upset. This call went on for about 3 hours, where every single student shared their opinion. At this point, the only thing I wanted to do was restore the relationships of my current students. So I went back to the drawing board and I decided to make some adjustments to the new training. What I decided what would be fair is that all students from 2023 and recent would get access to the new training at no additional cost. And then students that were working with me from 2019 up until 2023 will be able to join a new training, but they will be joining at an incentivized price. So those students will be paying less than all other new students that wanted to join the training. Along with this change, I decided to take some time out of my weeks for all new students that joined the training to have one-to-one calls directly with me to assist them as much as possible. So we had a call in the first month, and then we had a follow-up call within the second month to make sure every single student is on the right track. Also, I decided that if any student did not want to join the new training, I would still update everything in the old training that's relevant from the new training. So at this point, there was 3 different positions. All students from 2023 and recent will get access to the new training at no additional cost. All students from 2019 to 2023 will still be able to join the new training at the incentivized price. And all students that did not want to join the new training could stay in the current training, and they will still get updates from the new training and the current training, along with me putting mentors in place to still host Q&A calls in the current training. At this point, my overall goal was to make sure every single student I work with from 2019 to 2024 will have the accountability they need and the support they need and the most advanced information they need to continue succeeding inside the Artist Rise training, even though we were creating an entire new training. At this point, most of my artists were back on board, and it felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulder because this process went on for about 3.5 months. Now, the key thing is most of my artists were back on board. So I still had some artists that were really, really upset. So what I decided to do is get on one-to-one calls with every single artist that was willing to get on a one-to-one call with me, where they could voice their opinions and share exactly why they were upset. Now, you may be wondering, why am I sharing this with you? Well, I want you to understand the entire timeline, how from 2019 to 2024, it felt like I was on top of the world. My students were crushing it. They were happy. And from one mistake, and all it takes is one mistake for things to completely change. And next thing you know, my students were absolutely furious. And I completely understand where every single student was coming from. And I apologize to every single student. I'm sorry that they had to go through that, because those students have put their trust in me from the very first day that I started until current. And to this day, to be quite frank, I'm still working hard to rebuild relationships from current students because of how those students may have felt in that process. And as you're a visual artist, I also want you to understand that on this journey, things will get tough. It's not easy. There is ups and downs, and we all experience them. And I do say those who handle the downs the best is the ones who have the strongest character. I also believe that it's never the problem, but what's more important is how you resolve it. And for me to find the right solution to the problem that I've created, it literally took me months. And then moving forward, as of today, the sole focus is to create an absolutely phenomenal training, which is the Artist Rise flagship training that is currently being released. So if you're considering joining the Artist Rise flagship training, I want to explain to you what's inside. This training is hyper-focused on selling art and nothing else. It's for visual artists, those who paint, those who do photography, those who do ceramics, those who do sculpture. We focus on mindset, which I think is absolutely crucial. We also talk about marketing strategies for Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We talk about how to identify who will be the right buyer for your artwork, as I know that's a big struggle for all artists. We talk about how to locate those buyers online and how to have conversations with those buyers and how to get those buyers interested in you, all without being salesy. How to build genuine relationships and then turn those relationships into actual fans and then turn those fans into customers. And ultimately, how to turn customers into collectors. We talk about how to go from selling artworks from $300 to $3,000 for a single piece. We have students who sell artworks for $10,000 who, when they first met me, was selling pieces for $150. So what am I saying? This training is for visual artists at any level that really want to scale. Artists that take their career very, very seriously and want to grow. What I mean by grow, I mean becoming a full-time visual artist doing what you love. It's for artists who are motivated and inspired, because you're going to be surrounding yourself with other motivated and inspired visual artists. One thing I think is the strongest part of the training is the community. The artists inside of my training are artists who are all driven and supportive. They push each other and they give each other feedback, and they want to give first before they receive. I think that's absolutely crucial when it comes to succeeding in any situation. Basically, this training is for artists who just take their career very seriously. Artists who actually want to sell artwork and follow a process that works. And what I mean by work, I mean works extremely well. This is not for artists who are looking for an easy peasy, lemon squeezy process. because it do requires hard work. That's another thing. Inside my training, you probably have seen students of mine that cross 20,000 months, 30,000 months, $40,000 months, which is absolutely phenomenal. But what those students don't talk about is the amount of hard work that goes into hitting those goals. So if you're going to be joining the Artist Rise training, you want to set very realistic goals and expectations, and you want to make sure you're someone who's willing to work hard to achieve those goals. A student of mine is a student that's extremely hardworking. I refer to my artists as just badasses because they're really hardworking. So if I had to sum this entire video up, here's what you should know. I started Artist Rise in 2019, and it was an absolutely phenomenal journey. And I worked with some phenomenal artists all the way through 2024. Some of these artists end up crossing 6 figures, and some of these artists made their very first sale that they ever made in their entire life. And some of these artists grew from being no one on social media to being a celebrity online and having over 6 figures in following. Some of these artists are still upset at me to this day because of decisions I made mid 2024, and I'm still trying to rebuild those relationships. But overall, I would like to say my training is a very transparent training, and I show up in my training how I show up on YouTube videos or how I show up on the internet, and I show up as Jaroid Henry. And I do believe the success we had from 2019 to 2024 is something I'm extremely proud of. But the success that's going to happen in the next 5 years in this training is going to be absolutely mind-blowing, as we will become the #1 training in this entire space. And that's the only focus. The focus is to build the absolute most phenomenal, most advanced training for any visual artist at any point to be able to learn how to market and sell their artwork online. Where you learn how to build a website, you learn how to market on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or any new platforms that may come in the future, and you have accountability from mentors and myself and my team to make sure you succeed. That's the goal of the Artist Rise training moving forward. And if you plan on joining this training or you still may be on the fence, I even decided to create a free community for all visual artists to see behind the scenes of what we're working on, how it works, how it looks, and everything in detail. With that being said, if you want to come hang out with me, feel free to join the free community below this video, and hopefully you found this video valuable. And hopefully this video give you all the information you need to help you make the best decision for you and your art career moving forward. With that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing you inside the training if you decide it's the training for you. Peace.
Make consistent art sales using social media. So with that being said, we're going to jump straight.
Thank you, everybody.